Okay, welcome, welcome. We have our first batch of contestants here. We've got Dennis and Rob and Jen. You've joined first. And we've got Louise. I'll just admit her as well. Welcome, everyone. Feel free, please, to pop your cameras on so we can see your lovely faces. It's great to have a bit of an audience to perform for.
Always
Feel a
like
bit, I don't know
performing
about you,
for a
Blake.
live crowd.
Yeah, exactly. I feel a little bit on show here. Thank you,
Of
Sarah,
course, I
for
always feel
popping your
more on
camera on.
show. I always feel more on show in a webinar than I do in live presentations, which is always funny for people.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Hi, Rob. How you going? I think Rob and I have been texting before this one.
Hey, good, thanks. Hey, Blake.
Good
Hey
to
Rob,
see
how's
you.
it going, mate?
Good, thanks.
That's good. That's good. Natalie, I know that man. She's here. That's always good. Awesome. It's looking
Fantastic. Well,
like it'll be a good little day.
I know, I think it's gonna be fantastic. We had a great response to this. It's a really kind of timely thing. We hear from builders all the time about trying to be more profitable. So this is going to be fantastic. I'm excited to hear the questions as well that come out of today. I'll just give it one more minute to let the last stragglers come in. There's probably some people rushing into their cars from the job site to jump on, and then obviously we'll have everybody else watching the recording.
100%. And it's good that there's a recording for it, because even the ones that are here, you guys can always go back and look at all the information from today and hopefully implement some stuff within your own business that we speak about.
Absolutely. And Dennis has no camera or mic. No worries. Louise, hi everyone. No camera or mic, not a problem. You can just look at us, soak it all in. All righty. Well, I think I might sort of start proceedings, and I'll let people in as they join if they're trickling in. But welcome everyone. We're so excited to be here. Thank you for making the time. We know as business owners that making the time to work on your business and not in it is really difficult, and it's a really brave and fantastic thing to do. So well done to everyone. We're going to be running for about an hour today, and we have the wonderful Blake here from the Not So Silent Business Partner, and myself from the Arrow Agency. What I'm going to start off with is probably sharing my screen and doing some introductions. As we go, if anyone has questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we can talk through as we go. There'll also be time at the end for questions that we miss.
100%. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. All righty, let's get cracking then. So from busy to profitable, how to find your most profitable offering and market it. So the reason we chose this topic, I wanted to talk about it today, is because obviously we hear from builders all the time. We're a marketing agency that specializes just working with builders. So we have hundreds of guys on our books, and a lot of times they'll come to us and say, actually, I have enough work. I get quite a lot of inquiry. I'm booked out maybe for 6 months, 12 months, but I'm finding that my business is not as profitable as I want it to be. And that's obviously due to not having an offering that is profitable enough, not pricing correctly, all of that stuff. So what we're going to be talking through today with the lovely Blake is we'll do a bit of an introduction. We'll talk about kind of why finding a profitable offering, your niche, is so important. We'll talk through how to actually choose that. We'll talk about how to market that. So in terms of marketing and advertising, what to do to make sure you're pushing that out effectively. Blake's going to talk us through a little bit about systemization and operationally how you can be really efficient with that hero offering. And then I'm going to finish things off by talking a little bit about selling, because really that's the final piece of the puzzle. A lot of people, Blake and I were just talking about, a lot of people fall down at that point. Maybe your marketing's all fantastic and you're getting that inquiry, but you're not actually getting anyone to sign a contract. And that's really what we're here to do at the end of the day. So I'll talk through that at the end as well. So as I said at the beginning, please pop your cameras on if you'd like to. We'd love to see your faces and be able to see whether my jokes are landing or not, see whether you're getting bored. And if you could just keep yourselves mute unless you're wanting to pop your hand up and ask a question, that would be fantastic. Alrighty, so a little bit about myself to kick off. So my name is Emily Williams. I'm one of the partners here at the Arrow Agency. As I said before, we specialize in marketing for builders. We've worked a lot in the trade and construction space, and we decided pretty early on that the building industry had so many unique challenges, and that if we were going to do a good job for this industry, we had to specialize. So we now have our own hero offering. We have our niche, and I can say as a business owner, it does wonders for your business. So that's me. And we have obviously Blake Doolin here. Blake, can you tell everyone a little bit about NSSBP and sort of your area?
Awesome. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Blake. I'm from the Not So Silent Business Partner. We are bookkeepers that really help business owners in the construction industry understand their numbers. And when Emily's going to be talking today about finding a niche and selling that niche, one of the biggest and most important parts of working within a niche is making sure it's profitable. So you put in all the work at the upfront to understand what jobs are making you the most money. So when you go to your marketing team, hopefully the Arrow guys or whoever you use, then you'll be able to be like, okay, I really want to target this niche. This is where I make the most money, so that hopefully you can get into that golden ratio of profit. For those who haven't heard me speak before, the golden ratio is a 33% markup, 25% margin, 10% overheads, so 15% net profit. And I'll talk a bit on why I talk a lot on percentages this afternoon when we get to the systemized part of it all, as that is a bit of a conversation.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Blake. I'm excited to get into the numbers of that. I think everyone will be notepads at the ready for that part. Alrighty then. So I'll kick things off by talking just really quickly about why this is so important, because I think this is probably not the first time people have been told to, find your niche, stick to one thing and get really good at it and get higher profits and things. So we've been preaching this for a while. I think there's a lot of different partners out there that do the same, that preach this model. And the reason it's so effective is really because when you niche down, so when you say, okay, this is what I do and this is what I do really well, you're able to position yourself as a specialist, and then you're able to command premium rates for that service, essentially. So clients are going to pay much more for perceived expertise. So if you're talking to clients and they say, well, I'm renovating my house and I want Hampton style, renovation. And you say, okay, that's great. Yeah, we do all different kinds of renovations and styles, and we do new builds. And we also did a deck for our cousin last week. And yeah, we do everything. The perception of that is, jack of all trades. Okay, they do everything. It's not a strength. And some people are trying to position themselves as, yeah, we do everything. And unfortunately, it doesn't come off as a strength. The other reason this is incredibly important and effective is because once you do find your niche and find an offering that really works, your marketing becomes really laser focused. So when you're messaging, when the imagery on your socials and website and everywhere else, and the offer is all speaking directly to your ideal client, you're going to get much fewer poor quality leads. And it's going to be very obvious to people what you do. So something when I'm sort of chatting to different builders at events, I like to ask them is, if I asked everyone you've ever built for, if I asked them, what is this builder known for? What do they do? What do they specialize in? Would they all say the same thing? If they're all going to say something different, then you haven't done your job yet. That's really the litmus test for this. Another thing to think about is, I suppose, how competitive it is these days. So I was literally having this conversation with a Sydney builder this week, and he was saying to me, I'm seeing, young guys popping up everywhere. How am I supposed to compete with this? And the reality is that you're always going to have competition, and it is very, very difficult. It's a hard industry. No one's denying that. But if you can carve yourself out a niche and say, we dominate this space, you're going to really create what we call defensibility in the market. So as more and more players come, you've got your slice of the pie that you're known for, and you can protect that a lot easier. And then, of course, the big one is just profit margins improve. So, repetition with one type of job is going to increase efficiency. So you're going to reduce mistakes, you're going to find more efficient ways to do things. You're going to be able to lower your costs potentially, and increase your prices. So all in all, it's a massive win. And I know that Blake, this is something you talk to a lot of your builders about as well, and you probably have a lot of examples of how effective it is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It is a very effective way of doing things, right? Like it's once you find a niche, once you work within that niche, it is the only and best way to be the most profitable builder you can be, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense. So it's 100% the best way to do it. And once you laser focus on marketing, there's a million different ways you can market, right? And as you touched on just before, finding throughout your clients what you're known for. I'm known as the numbers guy. I call myself that. Everyone knows for me as that. And I can always use myself as an example. Yes, I'm not a builder, but I still use these techniques when I'm talking to people and when I work within my own niche, which is the construction space. And if you could go to every single one of your last clients since you've implemented a new marketing strategy and they all know you for the same thing, you know you're on the right track. And ROI is a massive thing, right? Emily, you'd work with it amongst your clients all the time. Return on investment's huge, and you always get the best return on investment once you nail down into finding what you need to do. And finding that sweet spot's a huge thing as well. It's like we'll talk on it, but once you find that sweet spot and you can market it and use the effective data to keep going, whether it's new clients, new architects, anyone under the sun, that's when you actually start to really see the benefit gained from a marketing expense within the business.
Absolutely. And I think I would imagine that most people who are on this call right now and everyone who's watching later on, if you think about all the times you've taken a job on, you've said yes, even though you kind of know this is maybe not worth my time, that gut feeling of I'm not moving forward in my business, this is exactly why this is so important. It's really foundational. So well, on that note, we will let Blake talk a little bit about how we actually find that sweet spot. So Blake, take it away.
Awesome. Perfect. So finding that sweet spot is a bit of it's a give and take over an extended period of time. So if you're a historical setup builder and you have information for days and days and days that you've already done, it's a lot easier to find that niche. We like to work with our builders over the first 4 or 5 jobs to understand where they're at. So finding that sweet spot really means that you go from being super busy and accepting all leads, you're quoting all the time, to then going right down into your niche and knowing when a lead comes in either through a website or through an architect, that is the jobs that you are going for. So we all talk about, and Emily, you guys would talk about it a lot as well, is the hours spent actually quoting and estimating and talking to people is always money that you can never get back, because that is essentially an overhead within your business. What we want to do is we want to turn that into time spent talking to the right people, whether that is, like I mentioned before, an architect or a client. That is completely up to how you want to sell in your business and finding that. Again, numbers will show what's number-wise the best, but some people, emotions do get in the way. And I'm not a robot here, everyone. Emotions do get in the way sometimes of what you do. But what you try to do is you try to find that spot of, okay, maybe I make the most doing these new builds that are $4 to $5 million, but I don't actually enjoy doing that. I enjoy doing jobs on the smaller end of town. So to find a good in between, we work with jobs between 1 and 3 million, because we still get our good profit margin. And to quickly understand a bit about understanding your margin versus markup and what you're actually making the most money on, it's never turnover. All right. And Emily, I can assume you agree with this as well.
Absolutely.
Turnover is a fake number, essentially, if you're making no money off it. We're here to make the highest net profit we can in business, because that's how you create a good life for you, your family, and all your workers around you. What I like to say to each one of my builders that asks me, well, I want to be a $15, $20 million builder, like, how do I get there the fastest? I'm like, well, you want to make sure that you're actually making the money before you make the growth. Now, Blake, that sounds backwards. Why do you want to do that? So if you are a $10 million building earning $100,000 a year, or a $1 million earning $100,000 a year, which one would you rather be? Me personally, I'd rather be the $1 million builder, because that means I have such a high capacity for growth and being able to grow effectively and efficiently. And also I'm working less for that 1 million than you are for the 10 usually.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, so what we do is we try to quantify that down to a percentage. Now, the reason we use a percentage is a percentage makes it easy. And one of my favorite sayings in business, full stop, is if it's easy, you'll do it. If it's hard, you won't. So we break that down to percentages. Now, these are real numbers, everyone. So my clients, a lot of my guys are achieving these numbers. I've worked with coaches in the past that achieve this as well. And also, it's a lot easier once you find your niche. This is why today is a thing. You need to find a niche to achieve these numbers consistently, but you want to do a 33% markup for a 25 margin. For those that don't know the difference between them, the markup is the percentage you put on top of the goods that you are selling. So in this case, materials and labor, and the margin's the profit you make out of it, or your gross profit. All right. Everyone tries to make it all sound super complicated by throwing up percentages on the screen and all that, but it is truly what you put on top versus what you make out of the total price of the job. And then you take out your overheads from that. So if we've got a 33% markup for a 25 margin, that means that we should have our overheads sitting between 8 and 12%. Ideally 10. That's what I call the golden egg, the golden ratio. So then you're making a 15% net profit margin. Now, to put this into numbers, because I'm a percentage guy, but to put it into numbers, so if you're a $1 million builder and you hit the golden ratio, after paying yourself a wage, you should have $150,000 in a bank account. All right? You can gross that up. And the whole goal is you want to try to get to $1 million net profit, because then you can do some developments in your own right. But working within that niche is the easiest way to do that. And if you find a niche and you work within it and get the correct percentages, you could be making $1 million in your pocket before taxes by just turning over $6 or $7 million, which is awesome. Whether you pay that yourself through a wage or through dividends, or you just leave it in the company and invest it, that is completely up to a per case basis. The whole point is getting there first.
Mm.
And look, there is a huge danger on also chasing every lead that comes in the door. Now, I mentioned just before about the time spent on it, but let's talk about the mental space spent on chasing every lead. If you have leads constantly coming in that are good, hot, warm leads, you're chasing essentially almost a certain yes. Now that creates a essence of reassurity, of confidence when you're talking. And I know later in the presentation and the webinar, Emily will talk a lot more about the actual sales process. But just from a point of view of the numbers and understanding why you shouldn't chase every lead is, if you are chasing every lead and then you're constantly getting turned down because you're trying to charge the margins that you know you should charge as a builder to make some money because you're not working within that niche, it creates a lack of confidence. You will potentially lose out on these leads that are coming in that are your niche because you're so inconfident in your ability from losing out on other jobs that you will tend to charge less just to nail the jobs. We don't want that. We want to be able to charge the correct margin so that you're safe at the end of the day. And the quickest and easiest way that I have found a builder to find these numbers is you've got to set up a two-step approach. So step one is nailing the numbers collection side of things, which is the way I like to explain it is Emily does all the sexy stuff. It's all very client facing. It's beautiful. It is sexy. Look at me, look at me, look at me, which is awesome. I do the boring stuff that just keeps the house up. So what we do is it's a two-step approach. Step one is the super boring side. That is just making sure that all your systems are set up, ready to go. We're collecting receipts at the right time. We're scheduling when they need to be on. We are tracking against jobs, cost codes, everything. And we're making that as streamlined, as efficient as possible, which I'll talk about later. So I won't go too much into it. To then have the second step of the approach, which is actually looking at your numbers. And that's the quickest way to do it, is you take it in two stages. And usually if you've got a standing still, no job data ever, we'll know exactly what your niches are within 6 to 12 months. But if you've got historical job data and everything within your own systems that you've already got set up and you understand at least somewhat where you're making money, we could have that up and running so you understand your niche completely within 6 to 12 weeks. It depends on the history of the business, But if you do a two-step approach of at least nailing your numbers right now and where they're at and getting that system sorted so we can collect the correct information, then you can then move into actually looking at it. And
That's so
look,
interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that.
it is just one of those things that if you understand where everything is coming from and how it gets there, all of a sudden understanding your numbers becomes like a secondary task. It's really easy. Okay, damn, I lost $100,000 on this job. Why did I lose that? You know what I mean? And it may be the type of niche you're working in.
And before I kind of move on to my one, a couple of things just sort of popped up for me there while you were talking. I think really what you were saying at the start around, you know, that turnover is kind of a vanity metric. And I think, you know, when we're talking to builders and they're saying, well, my goal is 10 mil, 20 mil, whatever it is. We always try and dig a bit deeper and say, okay, well, how much do you actually want to take home and what kind of lifestyle do you want? Because like you say, we're not robots and we all get into business because, you know, we want to at some point achieve some sort of work-life balance. Maybe we want to spend more time with family. So really thinking about revenue as a vanity metric can be quite helpful, but, you know, profit is sanity, obviously. And then I know you've worked with, you've worked with a lot of builders over the years. Do you see any patterns in the type of jobs that tend to drain profit margins?
So I wouldn't say drain necessarily, but there are different areas where you'll get to charge more margin and less margin. So in saying that, over the years of helping many builders, if you do small to medium sized renos, you're going to be able to charge more margin because the jobs are smaller. It's less of a price shock, which is every builder's worst nightmare now. Not only are you having to deal with it, the architects usually get the price wrong anyway. We all know how architects are for those who work with them. But what it does is when they get the price wrong and then you then have to compensate for that. So when it comes to the word drain, the biggest thing is not that it's technically draining. It's you having to cope with using less margin to combat the price shock side of things. So there are ways that you can value manage the process. So one builder tender is a huge buzzword and has been for a couple of years now, where you get in and you work so well with certain people that you are the only builder tendering that process. But yeah, the biggest thing that actually drains profit is not charging supervision time. That is the only one that is very common across every builder that I speak to, but when they're coming on board, is a lot of them don't charge for supervision time. And labor is very surprising that you'll do it. But when it comes to an actual type of job, it is a very per case basis on the type of jobs you do usually dictate the margin you can charge.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for that. All right. Well,
that's all right.
We'll move on to the sexy stuff, if that's okay. Now that we know why it's important, and Blake told us a little bit about you know, how we actually zero in and find
Emily,
that.
I don't know if it's just me, but the presentation's gone off the screen. I don't know if that's
yes.
just
I
me,
just stopped sharing for a moment so we could all see your lovely face, but I will reshare now, and we'll talk a little bit about, you know, you've zeroed in, you found the offering that you want to promote, and how do you actually push that out, and how do you attract the right kind of clients and jobs. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is really that the goal of your marketing shouldn't be more leads. If you're outsourcing it to an agency, or perhaps you're big enough that you have a marketing coordinator in-house, or maybe you're doing it yourself, if your goal is more leads, what you're going to have is more time wasted. Your goal should be the right leads, better leads. Because like Blake was talking about earlier, if you have a lot of wasted time dealing with poor quality leads, it's wasting time, it's wasting money, it's wasting morale, your conversion rate's going to drop. It's just such a key indicator of a business going in the wrong direction, is spending too much time on sales. So with that said, having that clear specialized offer, I think it makes it easier for your clients to understand you, to very quickly, you know, position you as the specialist, and to know that you're the right choice. Also, it's great for internally for the team to buy into, maybe your office team or your subbies as well, to say this is what we do and we do it really well. That's great for culture. So to get those kind of right leads, now that you've got the right offering nailed down, pre-qualification is something that I preach from the rooftops to all the builders that we work with, because this is the mechanism that's going to filter out those bad leads. And people get quite scared and upset when we start talking about this, because it is absolutely going to scare people away. So when we talk about pre-qualification, we're talking about things like, if your ad says bathroom renos from 25K, people who only have a 10K, 15K budget are going to be freaking out, and they go, oh, well, they're not for me. Perfect. They're not for you either. It's not the right fit. It's not the right relationship. Swipe left. It's not good. So this kind of thing is going to help you avoid those tire kickers. And the reason we say to be upfront about pre-qualification, so really in your advertising, in your social media posts, in your Google ads, on your website, wherever it is that you're pushing your brand out there, you want the pre-qualification upfront. Hey, we work with these kinds of people with these kinds of budgets in these service areas. Because what happens if you're not honest and upfront at the front of this process is that you let people trickle in and waste your time. And the technical problem with that is that when you're running things like Facebook and Google, and I don't know if anyone here today or maybe watching this back is running Facebook or Google ads, how these algorithms optimize is you say to them, okay, a lead for me is someone who calls or someone who fills out my form. That means if you're getting lots of the wrong kind of people calling you and filling out your forms, you're feeding the wrong information back into the algorithm. And that's really dangerous, because you're wasting thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, depending on your budget. So really make a list for yourself. What are my big no-nos? I would not work with someone if they didn't have this budget, they're in this service area, they're ready to go within this time frame, and put that at the front end in your pre-qualification. The other thing I want to talk about is consistency and clarity across the web. So what I'm talking about here is, a lot of times when we bring builders on and they start onboarding with us, we'll see that they have a website that says that they do renovations, and then their social media just has pictures of kitchens from one job, and then they have some ads running for bathroom renos. And the experience as a consumer is not consistent at all. So you've got to remember that your paid advertising is just one touch point. But people, especially with these big ticket items like new homes or renovations, these are potentially the largest investment people are ever going to make for some people. So you need to make sure that you need to understand that these people are going to have multiple brand touch points, and every single touch point needs to be consistent. So if you are a custom, architectural home builder, I want to see that everywhere, so that when I see your ad and then I follow you on socials and then I check you out on Google and then I forget about it because I go on holiday, and then I come back and I talk to my husband and we Google you again, every time I see the brand, it needs to be consistent. And that's something, you can do yourselves. And then, like we've been saying this whole time, position yourself as the go-to expert. So it's going to increase perceived value. So I'll use our own business as an example. We are a marketing agency. And if I sat here and said to you guys, oh yeah, we do anything for any kind of business, you're probably going to go, well, you've got no experience in what I want, and how, what's your expertise? Prove to me that I should go with you. All of these questions come into your head. But because I'm able to sit here and say I have years and years of experience just working with builders, fixing just this problem for them, that's a lot more of a compelling offer. And I can tell you our sales conversion rate is a lot better for it. So it's really, really important to be pushing that in all of your marketing. And I think that the last thing I want to touch on, I suppose, in this space is that it can be really, really exciting. So once you get to the point where you've zoomed in, you've nailed down your offering, you've been marketing it for a while, you've got a few projects under your belt, and you're kind of positioning yourself as the expert in that space, you reach what we call this tipping point. And that's the point where you can really leverage scarcity. And you can say things like, well, we only do, 2 of these jobs per year. And it becomes more of an application-based sales process that I'll talk about a bit later. And that exclusivity, this sort of invitation only style marketing is so, so powerful. So once you get to this point where you've got the right kinds of leads coming in and you're converting them, that's a really exciting tipping point. So it's something to keep in our heads and keep excited for when we get there.
Yeah, definitely. A quick question on that before we move on. So when
Absolutely.
you're creating like that fear of missing out in a certain sense of the word, right? Or
Mm.
overfilling the plane, as some people do call it, and working within that niche. So when you are doing that, what do you find as a marketer is your best time frame to book them out to? Is it 6, 12 months? Where do you find as a marketer that the leads that you are bringing in best convert so you can book out that plane for as long as possible so you know when money's coming in and money's going out?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, it does depend on the kind of builder. So people who, if you're doing very high-end multi-million dollar custom homes, then that period that people are willing to wait essentially to be on that
Mm,
wait list is a lot longer. Um, if we're talking about sort of smaller scale reno projects, then it's likely that you're going to lose people if you go too far out with that. But I think the wonderful evolution that we see is that once you reach that tipping point and you do start getting booked out, that's the point where you can kind of increase your prices, right? And say, well,
mm.
there's more demand than there is, services. So that would probably be, in a nutshell, my answer to that one. um,
It's a long-winded answer to answer that full question. I
it is,
completely
and
get that's probably its own webinar in its own right. But I was thinking if there was a
next
shortened
time, Blake,
version, it would
next
be
time.
good next time. 100%,
And,
100%
and
next time.
before I hand over to you again, Blake, I'll just mention to everyone if we do have questions kind of ticking away, feel free to pop them in the chat as we go, and we'll try and address them on the fly. And if not, I'll come back at the end to grab those as well. So that's a little bit about marketing. I'd love to hand over again to your lovely self, Blake, to talk a little bit about maybe some more unsexy things about streamlining your service offering for maximum impact. So I'll share the screen again and let everybody get stuck into this one.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to streamlining your offering, there's a few ways that you can do it. So I'm going to talk a little bit on being able to narrow down your focus. So we're going to talk a bit about how to set up systems to understand that. Now, when it comes to running business in general, the biggest hindrance is not understanding what's happening at a click of a button. Because consistency is key. And like I did mention earlier, if it's easy, you'll do it. If it's hard, you won't. So when it comes to narrowing down your focus to your highest or best offers or your niche, you've got to put in the time and effort to set up the system to be able to track it first. So for everyone on the call, if you've got a notepad right now, would be a great time to get a pen. So the systems that we actually recommend for each and every single one of our clients is we use Dext, DEXT, to collect all the paperwork. Reason being is it's best practice for the construction industry. It allows you to collect all the paperwork, as in bills and expenses, allows you to allocate both job and cost code at the very start of the bill life cycle. And also it helps you do some of the boring side of it if you're not using an external system on being able to check ABNs and everything like that. Then we feed that into Zero. Now, everyone is probably wondering why Zero, why not MYOB or QuickBooks? We use Zero because we look at it as best practice for business owners. So when it comes to ease of use, the way I like to explain it is MYOB is a bit like driving a semi-truck, right? It's this big, powerful system that's really good at what it does, but it's very hard to use. Where Zero is a bit more like a sports car. You put it in a drive, you put your foot to the floor, and then all of a sudden you're speeding. Right. So we like to use Zero, and then it all integrates into your job management software. Okay. Now, your job management software is where you're tracking your budgets versus actuals. This is how we're going to see our current up to date, how we're tracking against what we do. So it doesn't matter if you do cost plus. For those who are here that do cost plus, you should still always have a builder facing budget. Yes, your client may not see this budget throughout the project, but you yourself as a builder should always be working towards some form of budget so you can keep yourself on track and make sure that you're going in the right direction. Fixed price, there's obviously reasons why we work towards a budget with that. So when we're using our job management software, this is where we check each week. This system we do each week. We collect all information each week. And then we check once a week to be like, okay, cool. These jobs are making us this XYZ. We're achieving our correct margin that we quoted on these. Some jobs maybe we're losing margin on because they were higher labor and there was more labor intensive sides of it that we weren't able to get into a variation for XYZ reasons. So these are how you can quite easily quantify what is your best project that you should be aiming for. Now, yes, there are certain times that obviously the client and how they react comes into it, and if they're huge on communication and everything like that. But if we're tracking everything every week, we can figure out that as well. So then that narrows down your ability to find things. Now, once these things, obviously your numbers. So once we figure out what we can find and be able to see at a click of a button what all of our jobs are doing, that's how we're going to know in advance if this job is actually the ones that we want to keep targeting. So obviously the best part of, using the correct marketers and everything like that is sometimes you do get the niche wrong. God, I've done it in other businesses. I'm sure, Emily, you guys have done it before as well. Sometimes you get the niche wrong at the very start, and being able to stay on your tippy toes and move around with the shifting in markets is very, very valuable. So that's where you'll get through the process. You'll understand, okay, I make the most money on new builds in a French provincial style. Okay, cool. We're going to market towards that. Am I still getting offers for other jobs? Yes. Do you still accept them? As long as you meet your margins? Yes. But that's how we keep into it. And look, at the end of the day, consistency will always be key no matter what you do, whether it's marketing, whether it's numbers. So there's, basic rule of thumb for me and my builders is we do the process weekly. So the process is everything goes into decks. We allocate all information that needs to happen. We push that into Zero, reconcile, create a payables list, that whole side. So we're tracking both jobs and cost codes in Zero as well. Now, it's not traditional cost code tracking. Again, that's probably something that's a 30-minute conversation in its own right. And always feel free to reach out to me outside of this. I'm all about education. But we do track both of those in Zero as well as your job management software. So we do that every week. Reason being is you can check your budgets versus actual every week. So you can stay on your tippy toes. Do we need to speed up these certain parts of the job so we can make a bit of money back, right? Just in case. So consistency being key is you do that every week. And then each month you sit down and review how your jobs have gone for the last month, how you're going this month, and then you forward predict the next 6 to 12. Within this, you're going to be able to forward predict what jobs are coming in, when you should have those payments drop into your accounts, and then is that niche working for me? Because at the end of the day, you've always got to be constantly reviewing everything you do in business, unfortunately. So we like to make it as easy as possible. So if you are constantly being like, okay, cool, these French provincial homes are still working really well for me, but I really want to target this certain market of upper scale, not elderly, but like boomer generation Australians. Maybe we need to do a different style of build that was more geared towards them, because either you enjoy doing that or you found through the past that you've actually made a lot of money through there and you can notice that their market is changing. So then you can see how that is going without having to fully change your marketing structure just to get there, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Sorry, just something that's popped up for me as you're talking, Blake, is I imagine you would have worked with a lot of builders as they sort of scale and they hit those different revenue figures and whatnot. Is there a kind of system or process that you've seen that if people don't have in place at the beginning and they scale rapidly, things all sort of fall apart? What's kind of the one that you would say is the most important?
So to answer that, I'm going to start with one of my things I actually learned in high school, and a business coach has really drilled it into me outside of that I work with for some of my clients, is it's
Mm.
a way of thinking called the 7 pillars of success in small business. And what that means is it's the 7 pillars essentially your house being a business is built on. Number one is always finances. So a lot of the times, like you can grow relatively easy, right? Relatively easy as long as you've got the correct marketing people behind you and you've got good relationships and you're getting good leads. Growth usually isn't the issue. Well, the issue is growing so quick that you actually lose track of where you're spending money within your own business. Now, that could be on a two-prong approach. That could be you taking too much money out because you're going to buy a new Land Cruiser and you've got all this money in the bank account. Yes, that does happen. But the actual approach is usually that your operational expenses get a little bit out of control. Whether that's hiring like a full-time in-house person when you don't need it, just for what I do essentially. Um, there's the million different reasons, but that's usually the thing that hinders the most. So you go down to the pub and you'll speak to a builder they grew and they're like, oh no, don't grow. It's too hard. It's too complicated. Well, it's actually made easy if you have complete visibility of your own numbers. Now, I know every coach under the sun professes it, right? APB, the builder's coach, the professional builder, everyone professes understanding your numbers and knowing them. Because at the end of the day, if you know your numbers, it's actually very easy to grow because then you just have to make sure that you have the right marketing in place. Again, it's made simple. If you can log in each week and see where your jobs are at, you should realistically never get to a point where a job's going to lose you heftily because you've got
Mm.
historical data on quoting jobs. You know when you've gone over previously, maybe doors have gone up. We saw it during COVID. Everyone that was around during COVID, we saw it. Materials shot up 3 times. Provisional sums now are commonplace in every contract. So in to the long answer shortened is as you grow, if you can stay on top of your finances and set up a system that will last you from day one to day dot, it'll be made easier for you to grow sustainably. And at the end of the day, we're all here for sustainable growth.
That was such a nice answer. I love that. I'm gonna share that with Helena after this.
I know she'll
Perfect.
love that.
She will.
Big
Is
thing
there
is
anything?
sorry, one more thing before I pass on, Emily, if that's okay.
No,
When
absolutely.
when you're doing your reviews, depending on who you speak to, some accountants tell you quarterly or half yearly or yearly is enough. I'm a big fan of monthly. The reason being, if you can catch it each month, you're a good chance of catching it actually before it happens. So, for example, if you've got the right forward projections within your own business and you know all of a sudden that November is going to be a tough month, we need to get a small job in on the line. If you've got a really good marketing funnel, you'll have people always pestering you for small jobs that maybe you don't want to do. But they're the jobs that are the gap fillers. They're the jobs that when we don't have enough turnover for a certain month because progress claims line up funny or one job's going off and it's a month till the next one starts, those are the gap fillers. $150,000 decking and pergola. Okay, if we see that now, we know that we need that for November. It gives us enough time to make the phone calls we need to make, to look at our marketing systems and CRMs and sales systems and everything to get the names and processes so that you can do it. So I believe if you are reviewing numbers monthly, and when I say that, it doesn't need to be a 5, 10, 15-hour session with someone. I quite literally, it's an hour and a half or 2 hour meeting between me and my clients when I do it. I know other CFOs that spend about 3 hours as well. But if you're at least reviewing stuff monthly, you can catch it actually before it happens rather than catching it
Mm.
while it's happening. And that hopefully stops the mountain peaks in business. It's like a sound wave. You want to have it all nice and closely knit together rather than big peaks and troughs throughout the process. And yes, that
Mm.
definitely comes down to your sales funnel, which Emily will talk about.
That's a great point. Thank you for that. Um, Alrighty, well, we've reached the last little section of today, which is going to be a little bit about sales. So hopefully we haven't lost too many people. Everyone with their camera on still looks vaguely interested, so I'll keep going. I'm going to share my screen again, and as I mentioned before, I do want to talk about selling just briefly because it is such a massive part of being a business. And I don't know who said this, but thinking about your
Mm.
business, it doesn't matter whether you have a shop or you're a builder or you're a coach or whatever you are, we're all in the business of marketing and sales, unfortunately. And most people hate it, and that's fine. That's why there's people like us. But for the actual sales component of your business, that's really something where even if you get to a point where you have a whole team built out and really you're not involved in the day-to-day so much of your business, the sales is probably something that you're always going to be quite intimately tied to. So I do want to touch on it because it's where a lot of people fall down. With the builders that we work with, our specialty is really in helping people figure out what kind of jobs they want to have more of, and getting them more inquiry for that kind of job. And then we have a CRM solution and some sales automation to really help turn those leads into actual signed contracts. If you are, and I can talk about this all day, but I'll just very briefly say, if you are working with an agency, it's really, really important that you are asking them questions, not just how many leads am I getting per month, per quarter, whatever, but having the data on, okay, well, which ones of those have turned into signed contracts? Because that's really what we're all here to do. And if that's not happening as a result of your marketing is not working. So I'm going to assume that everyone on the call and those watching later are getting some leads, and that we're not all sales experts. And I'm going to run through some really key things that I think should help us to become better salespeople. So first and foremost is professional, timely communication. So I'm going to be a big fat meanie here and say that a lot of the builders that we work with are not professional and timely when it comes to their communication. And I don't care if it takes you 2 weeks to answer my emails, but if you're paying for really warm, high quality leads that are coming through your door, and you phone them once and they don't pick up, and you say, well, that was a bad lead. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. So one of the prerequisites we actually have to working with us is, are you willing to actually be a sales manager for your business? Are you willing to pick up the phone multiple times and talk to these people and get them booked in for discovery calls and things like that? And it is absolutely shocking once people get into the rhythm of following up with their leads and having a process with it. When you talk to people and say, well, why did you go with us and not XYZ builder down the road? A lot of times people go, well, you're the only one who got back to me. Everyone else I didn't hear from, or I heard from them, but it was 4 weeks down the line and I'd already chosen you guys. Whatever it is, you'd be absolutely shocked at how many jobs are won just because you were the first one to get back to them. So if you are not at a point where you have a CRM solution, so CRM is customer relationship management solution or software. That's a piece of software. There's lots of different ones around that help you essentially manage leads that come in and communicate with them. If you don't have that kind of software, make sure that there is some kind of process in place whereby if someone fills out a form on your website or someone calls the office, what is the time frame to get back to them? Who is responsible for it? What does the first piece of communication say? Could you automate any of that process? That's all the kind of thing we help our builders to figure out and implement. And if you're not at the stage where you have the budget to outsource that yet or to use any software, just sit down with pen and paper and really commit to some deadlines of, if I get a lead in the morning, it's 24 hours and I've called them at least once and they don't pick up, I call them again the next day at a different time. You've got to be hungry because people are busy, especially if you're working in the higher sector of the market where you're potentially targeting people with budgets in the multi-million of dollars. Then these people are business owners or they're investors or they've got 5 kids and they're on holiday for 2 weeks next month overseas, and then their niece had a baby. Everyone is busy, so you can't just expect that they're going to do the right thing and phone you when you're free and then pick up every time you call. That's not the reality of sales. So that's the first thing. Make sure you're professional and timely with everything. The next point I want to talk about is application-based sales process. So this ties in a little bit with sort of pre-qualification. So if you can make it feel like essentially these leads are applying to work with you rather than the other way around, you sort of begging them to work with you, then that's the gold standard. So you want people to be able to easily, get in contact. You don't want there to be too many hoops to jump through, but you want that process to feel like, as they're going through that process, they're going to feel like, oh, these are some, premium people. Yeah, this is like who I hope I'm the lucky chosen one that gets to sign a contract, and maybe they've only got 2 build spots this year. I hope I get one of them. That's kind of the goal of an application-based sales process. So that's sort of what I was talking about before with pre-qualification, making sure that there's enough questions on those forms and there's just enough hoops to jump through that people are feeling lucky to work with you, not and you're not feeling desperate to work with them. And the last point around this is really a result of finding your niche. So once you've said, okay, I'm doing this kind of thing for this kind of person, and you stack up a few projects in that space, and you spend the time and potentially the money to get client testimonials and nice videography of finished projects done, things like that, you suddenly have this lovely stack of proof that you can just shove in people's faces when they contact you. So using those client wins and past projects justifies your value. So when you get to that point where you're going to go, I'm going to push my quotes up a little bit because I dominate this space and I'm an expert in this space, you then have that wad of proof to go, yeah, you do want to go with me and you want to pay a slightly premium price because I have this proof that I can deliver what I say I'm going to deliver. I think selling is one of those things we all feel a bit icky about. I don't think anybody considers themselves really to be a salesperson. I think the best salespeople are just people who like to help. And that's certainly how we look at it here at our agency. And when I have a lovely view of all of our builders CRMs, and when I look at the guys who have a really high sales conversion rate, it's the guys that are on the phone as quickly as they can to these leads, and they go at it with an attitude of, how can I help this person achieve their dream? And if I'm not the right person for it, then that's fine. But coming at it with that attitude can help sort of take away a lot of that mental block around it.
100%, Emily. And I just want to touch on one more thing before we could shoot out for questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you or anyone on the call has heard of the who, not how method, or the who, not how by Dan Sullivan. Those who do know me, I mention this book every way through Sunday because I believe it's actually the best way that I did change my own business from having to do all the work myself. But for those who haven't heard of it, it's all about finding the who to do something, not the how to do it. And funnily enough, everything we spoke on today, both Emily and I are all about education. So we didn't really tell everyone what we do. And we're both very similar in the aspect of, if you call, we will just give you the honest opinion. But if you, as a business owner, can actually find the right who to do something, you don't need to know the exact how. You just need to know that it's all under control, be in control of it yourself, and be able to have your metrics against it. So just word to the wise, and throughout the years of working with very many builders, as soon as you find the right who's, you're no longer spending time on actually doing it. You're spending time on running and growing your business, which is the whole goal of everything we do here.
Thank you. That's perfect. All right, I'll share my screen again. I do have a final slide here, and this is just a couple of QR codes. As Blake said, we don't like to sort of sit here and give you a sales pitch, but if you do have more questions or you want to find out more, you can just go ahead and grab your phones out and scan those QR codes, and you'll be able to go to our website, find out a little bit more about us, and ask any questions. You can fill out a form on there or give us a buzz. Other than that, I'd love to sort of hand it over to the floor and see if anything has popped up for anyone as we've been talking, if there are any questions or anybody wants to have a chat about anything before we wrap up. I will just also...
Hi, Emily and Blake.
Oh, hi, Sarah. Hello.
Just a quick question. What's the best way to market your business if you've got a tight budget? Any suggestions on how to kick all those goals that you were talking about with narrowing your niche and laser focus, but your budget's a bit restricted?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe if that's all right, Blake, I'll grab this one to start with.
That is definitely you to start with.
That's definitely a sexy domain, isn't it? So yeah, that's a great question. And thank you, Sarah, because I think most of the builders that we work with are on really tight budgets. So I would consider a tight budget if someone comes to us and they say, well, in terms of ad spend, maybe I can spend $30 a day or $50 a day. That is a relatively small budget when it comes to digital advertising, but it's certainly a good starting point. So if that's all you've got to play with to begin with, my first piece of advice is to not try and spread that too thin. So what I mean by that is it's very exciting to think, oh, I'll do some ads on TikTok and I'll do some YouTube ads and I'll sponsor this and no, you don't have the budget. Find one channel that's makes sense for you and start there. And for the majority of builders, that channel is probably going to be Google search ads. The reason that I say that is because Google search ads are they capture really high intent traffic. So if someone is on Google and they're searching for renovator near me or deck builder near me or whatever it is that you do, if you're bidding on that keyword and you win that auction, your ad's going to come up. So that person who's in that research phase is going to see your ad. So that's fantastic. That's sort of low hanging fruit. The other reason they're fantastic is because unlike something like a TV ad where you are paying for the space, essentially, Google ads are PPC. They're pay per click. So what that means is you don't actually pay for that ad unless someone clicks on it. So not only is someone seeing the ad, if they click on it, that's the point where you pay. They click through to your website. So that's fantastic if you've got a small budget because you don't want to be paying for eyeballs. You want to be paying for actions. So if you've got a small budget, likely that's the first place to start.
So I'm going to quickly jump in. Emma asked a great question for you, Emily, but I want to quickly jump in on this topic before we move on.
Sure.
When it comes to identifying your budget, some people think a small budget is the best way to go. Some people think a massive budget is the best way to go. I know historically the rule of thumb has always been 2% of turnover is what you should spend. But in my mind, as the numbers guy, as I so coined myself, as long as your overheads within your business are within that 10%, you can find what your budget is before you even have to spend it. And if you're going to go to a company like Emily and the Arrow Agency and knowing what your max budget is versus what you want to spend, and then your lowest budget, gives them an ability to give you a scope of works that can actually help you work within it. It's one of those things that a scope of works can go to the nth degree, but you just want to go there with a budget in mind, and practically working that out is obviously something that should happen, so true figures. But that's
a great point. And thank you for that question, Sarah. That's probably something that was on everyone's mind, so that's great. And I'll address this question from Emma as well. So McDowell Homes, thank you for that. I feel like McDowell Homes, that's ringing a bell. I don't know if we've met before. So does our agency complete website design, or is that something we would need to source elsewhere prior to engaging you? So this is a great question because no, we actually don't build websites. And the reason is we've niched down our offering. So we actually, all we do is we help builders get more leads, and we do that through digital advertising and through sales automation and the CRM side of it. So building websites is a whole different kettle of fish. It's another sort of segment within marketing, and we are experts kind of over here. So that's why we try not to sort of do everything in an average way. In terms of websites, obviously it's a really important thing, and you want to get that right before you start spending money on ads. What we usually do is, because most of the builders who come to us, they might not touch their website in 5 or 10 years, or maybe they don't have one yet. As part of our onboarding process, we do a website audit, which we'll give to you in the first call. And if your website exists, obviously. And at that point, it might be that you've had a web dev that you've worked with in the past that you really like. You could take that audit to them and say, can you make these changes? Or if you don't have a website at all, then we have 3 or 4 website companies and freelancers that we work with that we would recommend, because they work with builders and in the construction space. So we would sort of pass you on to them to get that built. And then when you were ready, you would come back to us and we'd start the process. As part of our offering, we do build out landing pages for ads. So that's something to keep in mind if anyone here is running ads or they're thinking about running ads. Oftentimes, sending that traffic to the website is maybe not the best. It depends. But if your website has a lot of different services on it and it's a bit of a brochure of everything and whatnot, if you're running ads for one type of project and you send it somewhere that has too much information, you've lost people. So if you've got a landing page is essentially just a one-page website, and it's built specifically with conversion in mind. So as we send ad traffic to these landing pages that are just about that service, they mirror the copy that was on the ad. So that user journey is really seamless. So I've gone off topic a little bit, but I hope that answered your question, Emma. If you want to get in contact, I don't know if maybe you've been speaking with Helena before, but if you want to get in touch, we certainly have some people we'd recommend that are very good and very cost effective.
It's always good to use people that specify in your industry as well, guys. So for builders, it's really funny. I'd say there's 2 industries in the country that are very, very niche orientated for the services they actually need to have help them. And one's building, one's mining, because you've got so many expenses and so much money you spend on different services that help you, that you just got to find the right people. So if you find someone on the marketing front, like Emily and her team, and they recommend a certain website builder, it's probably because they niche in construction as well. Similar to like myself being a bookkeeper and finance guy, I know a lot of accountants that help the construction industry as well. So if you find the right people that know people in the construction industry, it's a lot better for you to use them rather than, again, a generalist, in my opinion.
And that's a question I get a lot as well, is I'm looking for an agency, like what should I look for? And my first thing that I say is always make sure that they do specialize in your kind of business, and that they can give you some proof that they can achieve what you're looking to achieve. Because if that's not the case, then and there's so many marketing agencies in Australia alone, so that's my number one thing that I say to people.
Awesome.
Lovely. Well, I don't think we have anyone else. Thank you, Louise. Lovely to hear. So I'll let everyone jump off and continue to build your empires. Thank you very much for coming today. We will be sending this out as a recording afterwards, so look out for that. And again, if you have any questions, just get in touch. And as people jump off, I'll just share my screen again if anyone needs to grab that QR code. But I think that's a wrap from us. Thank you so much. Lovely.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily, for having me on. And
thank you, Blake. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop sharing that one. Let everyone jump out. Thank you so much, Claire. Thank you, Louise. All righty.
Is Louise still here?
I think so, but I'll jump out now, Blake, and I'll speak to you very soon. Thank you.
Yeah, alrighty. Too easy. Talk soon.
Cheers. Bye bye.